Alright, this is my 2015 Yamaha FZ-07, and it's about time for the first oil change. Yamaha calls for that first oil change at 600 miles, and we're currently at 582, so it'd be perfect time for that first oil change. On the first one, you want to go ahead and change the filter, change all the oil in it, and one of the first things you want to do as you're preparing for the oil change, go ahead and start the bike up, let it run for a little bit. I've already warmed this engine up, so I'm not going to let it run very long. But you may want to let it run a couple minutes or so, let the oil get mixed in, warmed up a little bit, so that it will drain better whenever you pull the drain plug out. Some of the tools that you'll need to perform it: oil pan to catch your oil. You'll need 2.75 quarts of oil if you're doing a complete oil change with the filter. You'll need a new filter. I've got a Wix filter here, 51358, and you'll need means to get that overly tight filter that the factory puts on. They put way too much torque on it, so you'll have to have a means to get that filter off. I've got a couple options here to get that initial filter off, and you'll need a 17mm socket in order to get the drain bolt off. So we got a good place to work. About time to do it, so let's get that oil change on the FZ-07 done. So one thing you want to do when you get ready to change the oil before you drain it out, you want to warm it up like we talked about earlier. But the cap here, the filler cap, you want to loosen this up. You can leave it on there, but just make sure it doesn't seal back. And you just want it nice and loose so that that'll help the oil drain a whole lot easier, having that cap loose. Drain bolt's going to be directly below the oil filter, and you can see that right up here's the oil filter. Drain bolt's directly beneath it. Take a 17mm socket to get that off, and that drain bolt is on there too tight as well. So if Yamaha gets that drain bolt on there too tight, nice thing to have is a nice iron bar like this. You can use it as an extender for that wrench and pop that bolt loose. So we got that loose now. So let's go ahead and get that oil pan under there, and we'll let the oil drain out. Loosened up. You start pulling the plug out of there. Should have a nice flow of oil coming out. As you can see there, we're draining the oil out. You want to let it run for a few minutes to let that oil get all the way out. Have a couple rags on handy too, because it can be a messy job. And once your oil stops draining, you're ready to put the plug back in. This case, this little washer here, you can replace these. You can get these at the Yamaha dealer. I typically will leave one on for a couple of oil changes before I replace it, so I get a couple of changes out of it. Some people choose to replace them every time. Some people not quite as often. But there's this little washer right here that you can change as a part of your oil change as well. So we pretty much got all the oil out of there. We're going to get our drain plug back on. And we'll get it tightened back up. So I'm attacking this filter with these channel locks, and we're finally getting it to turn a little bit here. Once you get that loosened up, you want to get that oil pan underneath there, because it will drain some oil as well. Let's get our oil pan back underneath. And we've got that loosened up. So you'll see you'll lose some oil from that filter area as well. Once oil is fully drained from the oil filter area, you want to get your new filter. And when you get that opened up, I'll just get some oil on your finger and rub it around this gasket right here, this rubber gasket all the way around there. And that way when you screw it back onto the motorcycle, you'll get a good seal from this rubber gasket. So I'll load that up with oil and then we'll get this new filter back on there. So once all the oil is drained out from that area, let's take a clean rag, get that all cleaned up. And you're ready for your new filter. No need going crazy getting it tight. You don't need a wrench to do it. Just get it nice and hand tight. And once that goes through a couple of heat cycles, it'll tighten up even further on there. But no need to wrench it and get it tight as the factory does. So we're done draining the oil. We've got our new filter on there. We prepped the ring to help make a good seal. Got our bolt nice and tight. Only thing we have to do is to fill it back up with oil. Alright, now that we got the oil drained, got a new filter on, just have to finish removing this cap. And we'll put us a funnel in place to help get the new oil in. And it takes 2.75 quarts because we've drained the oil completely by changing the filter as well. So we'll go ahead and put in 2.75 quarts. In this case we're using the Mobil 1 synthetic. So we said that it calls for 2.75 quarts of oil. If you've never changed oil before, you can see this gauge here. We got 32 ounces in a quart. There's 28. There's a 16 marker there, so half of that. So 8. So this is the amount of oil that we should have left in there. So we're going to use this oil up here. We're going to leave 8 ounces left in the bottle. And once we get down to 8 ounces on there, we'll pour a little bit in and check it and make sure we're down to that level. And then we should have a completely full oil change, have all the oil in there that we need. And that's it. That's it. 8 ounces. I'll show you the bottle here real quick so I can show you what I'm looking at. If you look at the side of that mark right there is 8 ounces, and we're spot on. So we can go back in now, take our funnel out, make sure our plug is clean, and we can hand tighten that back on there. And that's it. We are done with the oil change for a 2015 Yamaha FZ-07. We just saved ourselves about $130 from the dealership.